The sound of Heather's heels clicking on our hardwood floor at 3 in the morning used to make my heart race with worry. Now it just made me want to laugh. My wife had gotten predictable in her unpredictability, if that makes any sense. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she'd stumble through our front door with that particular brand of guilt that drunk people wear like cheap perfume. I'm Nick Palmer, and I build things for a living. Houses, decks, the occasional barn when some city transplant decides they want to play farmer in our little Maine town of Cedar Falls. I'm good with my hands, better with numbers, and apparently terrible at picking wives. But we'll get to that. Nick, you awake? Heather's voice carried that sing-song quality she got when she'd been drinking wine with the girls. Except I was pretty sure the girls weren't involved anymore. I kept my breathing steady, eyes closed. Our bedroom door creaked open, and I heard her fumble around in the dark. The smell hit me first. Cologne that definitely wasn't mine mixed with something else, something that made my stomach turn. She slipped into bed beside me, and I felt her whole body tense when she realized I was awake. We lay there in the dark, both pretending to sleep, both knowing the other was lying. "How was Emily's?" I asked quietly. "Fine, we just talked about stuff, girl stuff." Emily Chen ran the local nail salon and hadn't spoken to Heather in 6 months. I knew because Emily's husband Ralph worked construction with me, and Ralph couldn't keep a secret if his life depended on it. "That's nice," I said. "You smell different." Heather shifted away from me. "New perfume." Emily let me try it. I turned over and looked at her in the dim light filtering through our bedroom curtains. Even in the darkness, I could see the guilt written across her face like graffiti on a wall. Her lipstick was gone, her hair was messed up in a way that suggested hands other than her own, and there was a hickey on her neck that she'd tried to cover with foundation. "Heather," I said, keeping my voice calm, "we need to talk." "Not now, Nick. I'm tired." "When then? Because we've been not talking for months now." She sat up in bed, and even drunk, her eyes had that calculating look I'd been seeing more and more lately. "You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk about how suffocating this marriage has become. How I feel like I'm drowning in this little town with the same people doing the same things every single day. So talk to me about it. We're supposed to be partners." "Partners?" She laughed, and it wasn't a nice sound. "Nick, I'm 32 years old. I got married when I was 24 because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But I never got to explore my options. I never got to see what else was out there." There it was. The word that would change everything. Options. "What kind of options, Heather?" She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in her expression, a kind of cruel honesty that booze sometimes brings out in people. The kind where I don't have to pretend to be happy with a contractor who thinks dinner at Applebee's is fancy. The words hit like a slap, but I kept my voice steady. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we both deserve better." I sat up and turned on the bedside lamp. Heather squinted in the sudden light, and I got a good look at her. Really looked. The woman I'd married had been ambitious but kind, driven but considerate. This person sitting next to me was someone else entirely. "You're seeing someone," I said. It wasn't a question. "Nick, who is it?" She was quiet for so long I thought she might not answer. Then, "Brady Foster." Brady Foster. The town's golden boy attorney who'd moved back from Boston 2 years ago with his law degree and his entitled attitude. He'd been divorced for exactly 6 months and had been working his way through Cedar Falls married women like he was checking items off a grocery list. How long? Does it matter? It matters to me. 3 months. 3 months. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to save money for the vacation she'd been begging for. While I'd been planning our 8th wedding anniversary. While I'd been trying to figure out how to make her happy again. "I want you to leave," I said quietly. "Nick, we can work this out. We can go to counseling." "No. I want you to pack a bag and leave. Tonight." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Where am I supposed to go?" I looked at her, this woman who'd just told me she'd been cheating on me for 3 months, who'd called our marriage a mistake, who'd made it clear she thought she was too good for me. "Call Brady. I'm sure he's got room." She got out of bed and started throwing clothes into a suitcase, muttering under her breath about how unreasonable I was being, how I was overreacting, how this was exactly why she'd been unhappy. As she packed, I made a decision, Heather wanted to explore her options. Fine. But she was about to learn that actions have consequences, and I was very, very good at following through. 20 minutes later, she was gone. I sat on the edge of our bed, looking at the empty space where she'd been, and started planning. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. I had research to do. I started with the obvious places. Heather's Facebook page, which she'd been using more frequently lately, was full of cryptic posts about new beginnings and following your heart. Her Instagram showed pictures from places I'd never been with her. Expensive restaurants in Portland, wine bars I couldn't afford, art galleries that would have bored me to tears. But it was her phone records that told the real story. I'd been paying our cell phone bill for 8 years, which meant I had access to detailed records of every call and text. The number that appeared most frequently over the past 3 months belonged to Brady Foster. Hundreds of texts, hours of phone calls, usually late at night or early in the morning when I was at work. I printed everything out and spread it across our kitchen table like evidence in a homicide case, because in a way, that's what it was. The homicide of my marriage, planned and executed while I'd been oblivious. My phone rang around 10 a.m. Ralph. Hey man, you feeling all right? Jimmy said you called in sick. Heather and I are getting divorced. Silence on the other end, then, crap, I'm sorry, Nick, what happened? She's been sleeping with Brady Foster. That piece of crap lawyer? Jesus, Nick, I'm really sorry. Don't be sorry yet, I'm just getting started. Ralph was quiet for a moment. What do you need? This was why I liked Ralph. No judgment, no useless platitudes, just what do you need? Information, and maybe some help with a project. You got it. Ralph came over that afternoon with a 6-pack of beer and a manila folder full of information about Brady Foster that would have impressed a private investigator. Turns out our boy Brady's got quite the reputation, Ralph said, spreading papers across my kitchen table. Divorced his first wife after cheating on her with 3 different women, lost half his assets in the settlement. He's been working his way through the married women in town ever since. How'd you find all this out? My cousin works at the courthouse. Brady's ex-wife filed some interesting paperwork during their divorce. Apparently, he's got a thing for other people's wives. Makes him feel powerful or some crap. I studied the papers. Bank records showing Brady's financial situation. Not as good as he pretended. Court documents from his divorce revealing a pattern of infidelity and emotional abuse. Even a police report from a domestic disturbance, call that had been dropped when his ex-wife refused to press charges. There's more, Ralph said. Sarah Morrison at the bank says Heather's been in there twice in the past month asking about separating your accounts. And she opened a new account with just her name on it. Sarah Morrison had been my mortgage officer when we bought the house. She'd also been Ralph's girlfriend in high school and still had a soft spot for him. How much money are we talking about? About $15,000 so far. She's been moving money from your joint savings into her personal account. Small amounts, probably hoping you wouldn't notice. $15,000. Money I'd saved working overtime and weekends. Money that was supposed to pay for our anniversary trip to Ireland. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Anger was hot and messy and made you do stupid things. This was something else. Something calculating. Ralph, how do you feel about a little surveillance work? He grinned. I thought you'd never ask. We spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Ralph had a friend who worked in private security and could get us some basic surveillance equipment. Nothing illegal, just cameras and recording devices that anyone could buy online. We mapped out Brady's routine based on information Ralph had gathered from various sources around town. Brady lived in a fancy condo complex on the outskirts of Cedar Falls. He drove a leased BMW that he parked in the same spot every night. He ate lunch at the same restaurant every Tuesday and Thursday. He worked out at the same gym every morning at 6 a.m. Creatures of habit, Ralph observed, makes them easy to track. By evening, we had a plan. Nothing illegal, nothing that would get us arrested, but comprehensive enough to document everything Heather and Brady were doing. I wanted evidence. I wanted proof. And I wanted them to know I had it. My phone buzzed around 8 p.m., a text from Heather. We need to talk. This is childish. I showed it to Ralph. He shook his head. She's got balls. I'll give her that. I typed back, you wanted to explore your options. Explore away. Her response came immediately. You're being ridiculous. It's not what you think. 3 months of phone records say otherwise. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, how did you get my phone records? I pay the bill, remember? Have a nice evening with Brady. She didn't respond after that. Ralph left around 10, taking half the surveillance equipment with him. We'd start watching them tomorrow, documenting their affair, building a case that would ensure Heather got exactly what she deserved in the divorce. I sat in my empty house, looking at the evidence spread across my kitchen table, and felt something I hadn't felt in months: control. Heather thought she was so smart, sneaking around behind my back, planning her exit strategy while keeping me as her safety net. She thought I was just some dumb contractor who wouldn't figure it out. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The surveillance equipment arrived 2 days later in unmarked packages that Ralph's security friend had arranged. Nothing fancy, just basic cameras, audio recorders, and GPS trackers that thousands of suspicious spouses used every year. All perfectly legal as long as we didn't trespass or break any privacy laws. I spent Wednesday morning installing a GPS tracker on Heather's car. She'd taken her Honda when she left, and it was currently parked in Brady's assigned spot at his condo complex. I waited until they'd both left for work. Brady to his law office, Heather to her real estate job, then walked over like I belonged there. The tracker attached to the underside of her car with a magnetic mount, invisible unless you knew where to look, and it would tell me everywhere she went for the next 6 months. Ralph handled the more technical aspects. He set up a camera across the street from Brady's condo, hidden in what looked like a routine utility box. Another camera went in the parking lot of Heather's real estate office, positioned to catch them meeting during work hours. This feels like we're running some kind of spy operation, Ralph said as we tested the equipment. We are, except instead of national security, we're protecting my bank account. The first real intelligence came in on Thursday afternoon. The GPS tracker showed Heather's car at a motel on Route 1, about 20 miles outside Cedar Falls. She'd been there for 2 hours, during what should have been her workday. Ralph and I drove out to confirm. Sure enough, there was her Honda, parked next to Brady's BMW in the lot of the Pine Tree Motor Lodge, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Classy, Ralph muttered, taking photos with a telephoto lens. Really shows respect for the institution of marriage. I watched through binoculars as Brady emerged from room 237, straightening his tie and checking his watch. 5 minutes later, Heather came out, smoothing down her skirt and trying to fix her hair in the reflection of a car window. They didn't kiss goodbye or even acknowledge each other. Brady got in his BMW and drove away. Heather waited another 10 minutes, then followed. Professional, I said. They've done this before. Multiple times, I'd guess. They've got it down to a system. That evening, I got a text from Heather. Can we please talk like adults? This situation isn't good for either of us. I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about her in that motel room while I'd been installing kitchen cabinets for Mrs. Patterson, working to pay the bills for a marriage that had already been over for months. I typed back, "You're right, we should definitely talk like adults. Adults who don't sneak around motel rooms during work hours." My phone rang immediately. Heather, how did you know about the Pine Tree Motor Lodge? GPS tracker. Very useful technology. Silence on the other end. Nick, you're scaring me. This isn't like you. You're right. The old me would have been devastated. The old me would have begged you to come back and work things out. But the old me didn't know his wife was a cheating liar who'd been stealing money from their joint accounts. I wasn't stealing. $15,000, Heather. Moved into an account I didn't even know existed. What would you call that? Another long silence. I want my things from the house. That's fine, but I'll be there when you come to get them. And so will my lawyer. Your lawyer? Did you think I was going to handle this divorce myself? I may be just a contractor, but I'm not stupid. I'd actually called 3 lawyers that morning. The first 2 had been sympathetic, but not particularly aggressive. The third, Margaret Walsh, had listened to my story and said 6 words that made me hire her on the spot. Let's make this expensive for her. Margaret was in her 50s, recently divorced herself, and had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in family court. She charged $300 an hour, which was more than I made in a day, but she was worth every penny. We'll start with a forensic accountant, she'd told me during our consultation. If she's been moving money around, we'll find all of it. Then we'll document the infidelity. Maine still considers that in property division, even though it's a no-fault state. By the time we're done, she'll be lucky to get her clothes and her car. Heather came by the house on Friday evening to collect some of her belongings. I'd changed the locks, perfectly legal since the house was in my name, so she had to knock. She looked different, thinner, more nervous. The confidence she'd displayed when she left had been replaced by something that looked like worry. "The locks," she said when I opened the door. "Security precaution, come in." Margaret was sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of papers and a digital recorder. She stood when Heather entered. "Mrs. Palmer, I'm Margaret Walsh, Nick's attorney. I'll be observing while you collect your personal items." Heather looked between us, and I saw her realize that this wasn't going to be the simple, amicable divorce she'd probably been imagining. "This seems excessive," she said. "Infidelity and financial fraud tend to complicate things," Margaret replied calmly. "We want to make sure there's no confusion about what belongs to whom." As Heather packed her clothes, Margaret and I sat in the living room, discussing strategy in voices loud enough for her to hear. "The motel receipts will be particularly damaging," Margaret said, "especially since they show a pattern over several months. And the financial records paint a clear picture of someone planning to abandon the marriage while securing assets." "What kind of settlement are we looking at?" I asked. "Given the infidelity and the attempted asset concealment, she'll be lucky to get 20% of the marital property, maybe less." From the bedroom came the sound of Heather dropping something heavy. She emerged 20 minutes later with 2 suitcases and a box of personal items. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking slightly. "Nick, we don't have to do this. We can work something out between ourselves." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since she'd left. The woman who'd promised to love and honor me. The woman who'd shared my bed for 8 years while planning her escape with another man. "You're right," I said. "We don't have to do this. You could have talked to me about being unhappy. You could have suggested marriage counseling. You could have asked for a separation. Instead, you chose to lie, cheat, and steal. So now we do this my way." She left without another word. Margaret packed up her papers and smiled. "That went well. She's scared, which means she knows how bad this looks for her. What's next?" "Next, we make it worse." The Midsummer Fair was Cedar Falls' biggest social event of the year. 3 days of carnival rides, local vendors, and enough gossip to fuel the town's rumor mill until Christmas. It was also where Heather and Brady decided to make their first public appearance as a couple. I found out from Mrs. Patterson, whose kitchen I'd finished the week before. She'd seen them holding hands near the funnel cake stand, acting like teenagers, according to her disapproving assessment. "Bold move," Ralph said when I told him. "Most people having an affair try to keep it quiet until the divorce is final." "Brady's arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable because he's a lawyer. And Heather? Heather thinks she's the victim in all this. She probably told him I was being unreasonable and controlling." We were sitting in Ralph's truck in the parking lot of the fairgrounds, watching the crowd through binoculars. It was Saturday afternoon, the busiest day of the fair, and half the town was there. "There," Ralph said, handing me the binoculars, "by the ring toss." I focused the lenses and found them. Heather was wearing a sundress I'd bought her for her birthday last year. Brady had his arm around her waist, and they were laughing at something one of his lawyer friends had said. They looked happy, relaxed, like they didn't have a care in the world. "You want to go say hello?" Ralph asked. I considered it. Part of me wanted to march over there and cause a scene, make them as uncomfortable as they'd made me. But that would be emotional and messy, and I'd learned that revenge was better served cold and calculated. Not yet. Let them enjoy themselves. We watched for another hour, documenting their public displays of affection with Ralph's camera. They shared a plate of fried dough, rode the Ferris wheel together, and stopped at several vendor booths where Brady bought Heather small gifts. It was around 4 o'clock when they made their mistake. They'd been drinking beer in the beer garden, a fenced area where the town allowed booze consumption during the fair. Brady had clearly had several, and his voice was getting louder and more animated as he told stories to his circle of admirers. "The best part," I heard him say as Ralph and I walked past their table, "is that she was completely wasted on this loser contractor who couldn't see what was right in front of him." Heather laughed and leaned into him. "He still doesn't know about half of it." "What do you mean?" asked Jennifer Morrison, Sarah's sister-in-law, who worked at the bank. "Let's just say I've been planning my exit strategy for longer than 3 months," Heather said, taking a long drink from her beer. I'm not stupid enough to leave a marriage without securing my future first. Brady raised his beer in a mock toast to forward thinking and better options. They clinked glasses while Jennifer and the others laughed. Ralph and I kept walking, but I'd heard enough. I pulled out my phone and stopped the recording app I'd been running. "Did you get all that?" Ralph asked. "Every word. She just admitted to planning this for longer than she told you, and he basically confessed to knowingly breaking up a marriage. Jennifer Morrison heard it too, and she's the biggest gossip in town after Mrs. Patterson. By evening, the story would be all over Cedar Falls. By Monday, it would be embellished and exaggerated beyond recognition. But the core truth would remain. Heather Palmer and Brady Foster had publicly humiliated Nick Palmer at the town's biggest social event, which was exactly what I'd been hoping for. I called Margaret from the parking lot. "They just gave us everything we need," I told her, playing back the recording. "Perfect. File for divorce on Monday. Make sure you request a full asset disclosure and ask for temporary spousal support. From her to you." "Can we do that?" "She's been working and earning money while conducting an affair that destroyed the marriage. She's also been concealing assets and planning her exit strategy, by her own admission. A judge might very well order her to support you while the divorce is pending." "How long will this take?" "In Maine, 4 to 6 months if she fights it. Less if she's smart enough to settle." "She won't settle. She still thinks she's going to come out of this ahead. Then we'll have to educate her." That night, I sat in my empty house and planned the next phase. Heather and Brady had made their relationship public, which meant they'd open themselves up to public scrutiny. And in a town the size of Cedar Falls, public scrutiny was a powerful weapon. I started with social media. I created a simple post on my Facebook page, going through a difficult time right now, but grateful for friends and family who've shown me what loyalty really means. Sometimes you don't know who people really are until they show you. It was vague enough to seem classy, but clear enough that everyone would know what I was talking about. Within an hour, it had 30 comments of support and had been shared a dozen times. Then I waited. By Sunday morning, my phone was ringing constantly. Friends, neighbors, even customers I'd worked for over the years, all calling to offer support and share what they'd heard about Heather and Brady's performance at the fair. "She was practically sitting in his lap," Mrs. Patterson told me. "Shameful behavior for a married woman." "Brady Foster's always been trouble," said Jim Morrison from the hardware store. "His ex-wife used to come in here with bruises, you know." "I heard she's been stealing money from your accounts," added Carol from the diner. "My cousin works at the bank." I listened to each call, thanked them for their concern, and made mental notes. The court of public opinion was already in session, and the verdict wasn't going in Heather's favor. Monday morning, Margaret filed the divorce papers. By Monday afternoon, Heather had been served at her real estate office in front of her boss and 3 coworkers. She called me that evening, furious. "You're asking for spousal support? From me? My lawyer thinks I have a good case. Apparently, infidelity and asset concealment don't look good in family court." "This is insane, Nick. You make more money than I do. Actually, according to the tax returns we filed together, you made more money than me last year. Real estate was good to you." "That was 1 year. It's the most recent data we have, and since you've been planning your exit strategy for longer than 3 months, your words, not mine, it seems like you've been pretty confident about your earning potential." Silence on the other end. "I want to settle this quickly and quietly," she finally said. "I'm sure you do. But you forfeited your right to quick and quiet when you decided to parade your affair around the midsummer fair." "What do you want, Nick?" I thought about that question. What did I want? I wanted my marriage back, but that was impossible. I wanted the last 8 years of my life back, but that wasn't happening either. I wanted her to understand the pain she'd caused, but she was too selfish to ever really get it. "I want you to face the consequences of your choices," I said finally. "All of them." She hung up. 3 weeks into the divorce proceedings, Brady Foster made his first mistake. He tried to intimidate me. I was leaving Margaret's office after a meeting about asset discovery when he approached me in the parking lot. He was wearing an expensive suit and the kind of confident smile that told me he thought this was going to be an easy conversation. "Nick, right? I'm Brady Foster. I think we should talk." I looked him up and down. He was taller than me by a couple inches, probably worked out at some fancy gym, and had the kind of soft hands that had never done real work. Everything about him screamed privilege and entitlement. "I know who you are," I said. What do you want? I want to help you understand the situation. Heather and I didn't plan for this to happen. Sometimes people just fall in love. Fall in love, I repeated the words like they tasted bad. Is that what you call sneaking around motel rooms and stealing money from joint accounts? His smile flickered. Look, I get that you're hurt, but dragging this out isn't going to change anything. Heather's not coming back to you. She's moved on. Has she? She's living with me now. We're talking about getting married after your divorce is final. This was news to me, but I kept my expression neutral. Congratulations, I hope you have a prenup ready. What's that supposed to mean? It means she cheated on me and she'll cheat on you. It means she stole from me and she'll steal from you. It means you're getting exactly what you deserve. The confident smile disappeared entirely. You need to be careful, Nick. Making accusations you can't prove can get you in legal trouble. Accusations? I pulled out my phone and played back the recording from the fair. Brady's voice came through clearly. The best part is that she was completely wasted on this loser contractor who couldn't see what was right in front of him. His face went pale. I've got hours of recordings, I continued. Photos, GPS tracking data, financial records, witness statements. Your girlfriend wasn't as careful as she thought she was. You were stalking us? I was documenting infidelity for divorce proceedings. Perfectly legal in Maine. You should know that, being a lawyer and all. Brady stepped closer, trying to use his height to intimidate me. You're playing a dangerous game. I didn't back down. No, Brady. You played a dangerous game when you decided to break up my marriage. I'm just finishing what you started. What do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You wanted to be the hero in Heather's story, fine. But heroes don't get happy endings when they're built on lies and betrayal. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in his expression. The arrogance was still there, but underneath it was something else. Worry, maybe, or fear. This isn't over, he said finally. You're right, it's not. He walked away, and I got in my truck feeling better than I had in months. Brady Foster was used to getting his way through intimidation and legal threats. He wasn't prepared for someone who fought back with evidence and patience. That evening, Margaret called with an update. The forensic accountant found more money, she said. Heather's been moving assets for almost 6 months. There's another account we didn't know about, and she's been paying Brady's rent for the past 2 months. She's been paying his rent? $1,500 a month, plus she bought him a new laptop and paid for a weekend trip to Boston. She's been essentially supporting him while stealing from your joint accounts. Can we use that? Oh, we're going to use all of it. I'm filing a motion for emergency asset preservation. The judge is going to freeze all her accounts until this is resolved. What does that mean? It means she won't be able to access any of her money until the divorce is final. If she wants to eat, she'll have to ask Brady to support her. I thought about Brady's reaction when he realized his sugar mama was about to be cut off. This should be interesting. It gets better. I also found out that Brady's been lying about his income. He owes back taxes and has 2 judgments against him from creditors. He's broke, Nick. Heather's been supporting a man who's in worse financial shape than she is. The next morning, Heather called me in tears. Nick, please, you have to stop this. The bank froze my accounts. I can't even buy groceries. That's unfortunate. This is cruel. I'm still your wife. You stopped being my wife when you started sleeping with Brady. Now you're just someone I used to know who happens to share my last name. I'll give you everything back. The money I moved, all of it. Just call off your lawyer. It's too late for that, Heather. You made your choices, now you get to live with them. Brady says you're trying to destroy us. Brady's right, I am. Why? Why can't you just let us be happy? I thought about that question. Why couldn't I just let them be happy? Because they'd built their happiness on the ruins of my marriage. Because they'd humiliated me in front of the entire town. Because they'd stolen from me and lied to me and treated me like I was too stupid to figure it out. Because you don't deserve to be happy, I said finally. Not together and not with my money. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. You're going to regret this, Nick. Brady knows people, important people. We can make things very difficult for you. Is that a threat? It's a promise. She hung up, and I immediately called Margaret to report the conversation. Threats? She said, perfect. File a police report. If they want to escalate this, we'll escalate it. But I had a better idea. The confrontation I'd been waiting for came on a Thursday evening at the Dockyard, Cedar Falls' only real bar. I'd been having dinner alone when Brady and two of his lawyer friends walked in, clearly looking for me. The bar went quiet when they approached my table. Marty, the bartender, caught my eye and nodded slightly. He'd been expecting this. Half the town had been expecting this. "Nick Palmer," Brady said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We need to talk." I looked up from my burger and fries. Brady's face was flushed and his expensive suit was wrinkled. He looked like a man who hadn't been sleeping well. "I'm eating dinner, Brady. Make an appointment." "You think you're real smart, don't you? Freezing Heather's accounts, spreading lies about us around town." "I haven't spread any lies. I've just been telling the truth. People don't seem to like it very much." One of his friends, a thin man in his 40s, stepped forward. "You're harassing our client and interfering with her relationship." "Your client?" I laughed. "Is that what we're calling her now?" "This is going to stop," Brady said. "The stalking, the financial manipulation, all of it." I stood up slowly, aware that everyone in the bar was watching. "Brady, the only thing that's going to stop is you living off my wife's stolen money." "That money was as much hers as yours." "Was it? Because the forensic accountant says different. Apparently moving money into secret accounts while planning to leave your husband is called dissipation of marital assets. It's illegal." Brady's face got redder. "You're trying to ruin her life." "I'm trying to get back what she stole from me. There's a difference. She never stole anything." I pulled out my phone and played another recording. This one from their conversation at the fair, where Heather admitted to planning her exit strategy for longer than 3 months. The bar was dead silent as her voice filled the room. "Let's just say I've been planning my exit strategy for longer than 3 months. I'm not stupid enough to leave a marriage without securing my future first." When the recording ended, Brady lunged at me. I sidestepped easily, and he crashed into an empty chair. The bar erupted in laughter and shouting as Brady scrambled to his feet, his suit torn and his dignity in tatters. "You son of a witch!" he snarled. "Careful, counselor, that's assault. And you've got 30 witnesses." Marty came around the bar with a baseball bat. "Brady, I think you and your friends should leave." "This isn't over," Brady said, straightening his jacket. "You're right," I replied. "It's not." They left to a chorus of boos and cat calls from the other patrons. I sat back down and finished my dinner while people came over to shake my hand and buy me drinks. "That boy's got some nerve," said Mrs. Patterson, who'd been sitting at the bar with her sister. "Coming in here and threatening you after what he did." "Brady Foster always was a bully," added Jim Morrison. "His daddy's money used to protect him, but daddy's been dead for 5 years now." The next morning, Margaret called with the best news yet. "Brady filed a harassment complaint against you with the police." "That's good news?" "It's great news. Because when they investigated, they found out about his unpaid taxes, his outstanding judgments, and the fact that he's been practicing law with a suspended license." "His license is suspended?" "Has been for 3 months. He didn't pay his bar association dues or complete his continuing education requirements. Every case he's worked on since then is invalid." "Including representing Heather?" "Including representing Heather. She's going to need a new lawyer, and most of the good ones in town won't touch her case now." "Why not?" "Because everyone knows she's broke, and lawyers like to get paid." That afternoon, I was installing crown molding for the Hendersons when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Nick, it's Heather." Her voice sounded different, smaller, defeated. "What do you want?" "I want to settle. No lawyers, no more fighting. Just settle." "What are you offering?" "I'll take my car and my clothes. You can have everything else." I thought about it. The house, the savings accounts, the investments, my business equipment. Everything we'd built together over 8 years. "What about the money you stole? I'll pay it back, somehow." "And Brady?" A long pause. "Brady and I, we're taking a break." "A break?" "He left town this morning. Said he had business opportunities in Portland." "Business opportunities, all right." Brady had run when the money dried up and the legal trouble started, just like I'd known he would. "So he abandoned you." "He didn't abandon me. We realized we moved too fast. Heather, he used you. He saw a married woman with access to money and a husband who worked too much to pay attention. You were an easy mark." "That's not true." "Then why did he leave the minute your accounts got frozen?" She didn't answer. "I'll consider your settlement offer," I said finally, "but it goes through lawyers. I don't trust you enough to handle this ourselves." Nick, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean much now, but I am sorry. Sorry you got caught, or sorry you did it. Sorry I hurt you. You didn't deserve that. No, I didn't. I hung up and went back to work. The crown molding wasn't going to install itself, and I had a business to run. Margaret called that evening with Heather's formal settlement offer. It was exactly what she'd promised. She'd take her car and personal belongings, pay back the money she'd stolen over 5 years, and give me everything else. It's a good deal, Margaret said. Better than we'd probably get in court. And Brady? Brady Foster is no longer practicing law in Maine. The State Bar Association is investigating him for unauthorized practice, and the IRS is looking into his tax situation. He's got bigger problems than your divorce now. What about Heather? What about her? She's getting exactly what she chose. She wanted to explore her options, and she explored them right into poverty and social exile. I signed the settlement agreement that night, sitting at my kitchen table in the house that was now entirely mine. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Patterson's dog barking and the sound of teenagers driving too fast down our quiet street. Everything was exactly the same as it had been 6 months ago. Except now I was alone, and Heather was someone else's problem. Except she wasn't anyone's problem anymore, because Brady was gone, and she had no money and no friends left in town. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks later. I didn't attend the hearing. Margaret handled everything. Heather signed the papers and walked out of the courthouse, with nothing but her car keys and a 5-year payment plan for the money she'd stolen. I heard from Ralph that she'd moved back in with her parents in Augusta, 40 miles away. Brady had indeed left Maine, apparently owing money to half the lawyers in Portland and facing disbarment proceedings. 6 months after Heather walked out of our house, I was exactly where I'd started, except richer and wiser and completely alone. The woman who'd promised to love and honor me had chosen to explore her options, and her options had led her to a broke, dishonest lawyer who'd abandon her the minute things got difficult. I sat on my front porch that evening, drinking a beer and watching the sun set over Cedar Falls. Mrs. Patterson waved from her garden, and Jim Morrison honked as he drove past. The town had moved on from the drama of my divorce, but the lessons remained. Actions have consequences. Choices matter. And sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people get exactly what they deserve. Heather had wanted freedom from our marriage, and she'd gotten it. She'd wanted to explore her options, and she'd explored them thoroughly. She'd wanted a better life with a more exciting man, and she'd discovered that excitement comes with a price. Brady had wanted an easy mark and a sugar mama, and he'd gotten both until the money ran out. Then he'd done what men like him always do. He'd run. And me, I'd wanted justice, and I'd gotten that too. Not the hot, angry kind of justice that lands you in jail, but the cold, patient kind that uses the system against people who think they're too smart to get caught. I finished my beer and went inside to my empty house. Tomorrow I'd start working on the kitchen renovation I'd been planning for years but never had time for. Maybe I'd finally finish the basement, or clean out the attic, or paint the guest room. I had time now, all the time in the world. And for the first time in months, that felt like a gift rather than a punishment.